Hi there. Tonight's book selection is my 2017 poetry collection called Salsipuedes. If you know Santa Barbara, then you know Salsipuedes is a street, but it's also the imperative in Spanish of get out while you can, which is a little bit ironic because I did get out while I could in 1983 from Santa Barbara, and I've never been back. This book came about when I was writing my memoir called It Happens That Fast. In 2017, I decided to write about the first 25 years of my life. While I was writing my memoir, I just figured out I had about 18 Santa Barbara poems. And I decided to bring out a companion piece to It Happens That Fast memoir, and I wrote 24 more poems, so I ended up with 42, which I have since expanded to 60 poems in the current edition that you can see on Amazon, Salsipuedes. If you type in Santa Barbara poetry, this book comes up first, which is kind of complimentary to me. I've also written some new Santa Barbara poems, so eventually Salsipuedes will probably be an 80-poem book once I start adding in all the Santa Barbara poetry. Let me give you a few examples of, I'm a Santa Barbara native, so let me give you a few Santa Barbara examples of what I'm talking about here. This one's called Identity. The main section of Santa Barbara slopes slightly towards the ocean, planks along the coastal plain, thin as a communion wafer, tipped like a boat ramp at the harbor. Anacapa Street runs south one way through most of town, but one time where it reverts to two-way street, I forgot, late for work after school, and I swung left immediately in front of a cop. To borrow my parents' phrasing, I could have creamed him, but I did not. He pulled in behind me and let me off for only one reason, because he could. At the low flange of town, I helped unload the day's catch from the harbor, from pickup trucks swayback smaller than each swordfish. I shoveled ice into cavities and rolled each stuffed fish into a freezer. Twice a week I made the clam chowder for 7 restaurants, a chain. My girlfriend, who worked in a candle store, could never get over the smell. Vanilla, blueberry, and pumpkin spice were no match for albacore. I barely got used to being called boyfriend. I was not yet the father who holds on to his infant daughter late at night when she screams from the colic. I had not yet woken full of dread. I hoped that then that I was something more than somebody a cop let off without a warning. My name was exactly my father's. I wore a too thin smock over my school clothes, and I punched in each afternoon as if I was going to lose fingers. You try it. To the rest of them there, I was but a dabbler, defined by the day's inky type stamp, the beginning of an afterthought. This is another Santa Barbara poem called Late for the Sky. It takes the epigraph from the Jackson Browne song, I Thought I Was a Child. It's such a clever innocence with which you show myself to me. Late for the sky. My despondence roamed the Montecito backroads of pedestrian dependence on my 10-speed bike because Dad wouldn't let me borrow his Camaro. This sorrow moved in each night like the marine layer that drifts in from the south and in the east. Slights and shyness sloshed around in a tide pool of adolescence. I realize now it was chemical. I could have turned out to be a narcissist, but I didn't have the wardrobe for it. Instead, I listened to These Days and For a Dancer after finishing my geometry homework, all angles and rays. I articulated a clever kingdom in my head where losing was exquisite, and the steep roads named after the sycamores and eucalyptus knew my solitude and my pose. I had the occasion one time to actually meet the Dalai Lama in Montecito. Of course, why wouldn't you meet the Dalai Lama in Montecito? This is called the 14th Dalai Lama on Butterfly Beach. I should probably add that Butterfly Beach was my first beach when I was a 4-year-old. My grandparents lived on Olive Mill Road and used to take me down to Butterfly Beach. The 14th Dalai Lama. Low tide on the Sea of Faith, the one place in California where the sun appears to rise out of the water. I've been walking this span of sand since I was 4. I've sipped Lowenbrow on the stone wall in August and watched the shooting stars and the orange lights of the offshore oil derricks. They say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. This must be open enrollment. His Holiness hovers between his two hosts on the sand, his saffron choju dawning upon the outer darkness of their three-piece suits. Santa Cruz Island is a manifestation of compassion, a compliant, calming backdrop. The group poses for a second shot. I hand the camera back, and the willing, wish-fulfillingness gem grins. Of course this happened early one morning by the sea in Montecito. I am merely a lens, a means to commemorate a moment in the midst of such opulence. Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. And finally, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's a cool little park on the backside of the mesa called Hilda Ray. It's really, really hard to find, but it was a place where I had childhood birthdays. This is called Flying at Hilda Ray Park. The mesa's mystery is a hard place to find late in life, a bunch of right turns through hilly, obscure neighborhoods. You think they might have raised it, but it only means you're lost. The city spreads out below you, like Balboa discovering the Pacific. Cortez enters the Valley of Mexico. What a 4-year-old believes to be profound. From here, you can see Camino Cielo. The sidewalks are subtle, switchbacks beneath the oaks. The picnic tables ready for potato salad and piñatas. The slope pulls you back, then sends you forward into pure childhood flight, what your heart was made for. I hope you've enjoyed these poems. If you like Santa Barbara and you like Santa Barbara poetry, I would recommend Salsipuedes. Gracias.